Phew, finally this video came out. Guys, I was talking about this video for quite some time now. I don't want to actually try to speed up this intro and actually get into the video because I know that this video is going to take a very long time. And I ask you guys, if you guys are skeptics, atheists, or any Christian that really wants to know the information that I have on this, in this presentation here today, please watch the entire video. Now, it's probably going to be really long, maybe an hour or so. I don't know for sure. But, if it does end up coming to that, and you guys cannot watch the entire thing right away, I advise you guys to put it to watch later and watch the entire thing. I want you guys to be able to get the information that you may need to understand what I might be talking about in this video. I made another video like this. It was a horrible video. It was really, really old. I didn't have the technology to be able to do anything. But I'm glad I made this video, and let's get right into the video. The Colorado River did not carve the Grand Canyon. This, this presentation is called "Did the Colorado River Grand Canyon?" But it didn't, for many reasons. One, because the Grand Canyon is taller at the top than where the river started, and what I mean by that is the beginning where the Colorado River enters the canyon is shorter than further down into the canyon, not cannon. Further down in the canyon, it gets taller. So, for the order of the Colorado River to carve the Grand Canyon, it would have to move uphill. That basically proves it wrong just there. But there's many, many other things that go into it. Evidence that actually points to it being a washed out spillway. The land that was carved out of short periods of time. What I mean by that is it would have to be carved out of a short period of time for the reason why, if it wasn't, it would have tremendous amount of erosion marks. It would not be in the condition that it is right now. Today, it'd have tremendous erosion marks. And if you guys believe that each sedimentary level was set over millions of years, I'll call you daft, and I will explain a little bit later, after a few more PowerPoints here. Number 4, the land was put in layers by hydrologic sorting. What is hydrologic sorting, you may ask? Well, hydrologic sorting is basically the form that you actually see this. The Grand Canyon here, if you see the layers by one and one, if you actually take a whole bunch of different stones. When I say stones, I mean like itsy-bitsy stones. I mean like gravel. And different types of dirts. And you put it in a jar. And put water in it. And you stir it around. Then each one of the layers in the water. Each one of the pieces of dirt will categorize in layers by their density, their weight, their buoyancy, and how neat the layers actually are. Basically prove that this is actually from hydrologic sorting, which is what we see. It cannot be made over millions of years. It wouldn't be so perfect. If it was made over millions of years, you would have a lot more dirt layers in between each layer of rock. You would have a lot more dirt layers. You'd also have a lot of erosion marks in between layers. But you don't really see that. You don't actually see that at all, really. Which is really interesting. there is more facts talking about hydrologic sorting. I do not have any notes on hydrologic sorting, and I might actually make a video on that. But if you guys want to look up hydrologic sorting, do that. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm talking about. But anyways, next one is number 5. Long layer deposition does not make sense. What I mean by that is long periods of time, layers being laid over long periods of time does not make sense. Like I said, for many reasons. One is we don't see the erosion marks. Another one, it would not be so perfect, okay? It would not be in layers like this, okay? It would not be in layers like this. But on this thing right here, there is more things that has evidence on the Grand Canyon being made from a flood, not by the Colorado River. Wait, hold on, I need to get my glasses here. I cannot really see these words. Bad. That's a lot better. We find an entire series, well, no, this is number 1. Layers made by representation. We find an entire series of sedimentary layers nestled nearly a mile deep at Grand Canyon. So, they find layers nearly a mile deep at Grand Canyon, okay? That together folded without fracturing. What this guy is getting at is they find layers like the layers on Grand Canyon, because this is actually at Grand Canyon. They found layers a mile deep folding. Like, what I mean by that is it would actually have to be hot like lava. Then it would actually have to curl or fold without cracking. If there would be cracking, that means, well, if it was cracked or broken apart, that means it was not made rapidly. But if we find multiple layers curled, like the folded mountains, which there is a mountain that's just curled, that those mountains and all that had to be made by, okay, there you go. Had to be made by being heated up like lava. You would actually have to be like lava. It would have to be pliable. Then it would actually have to fold. But you cannot get layers miles deep for millions of years to fold, okay? It doesn't work like that. Okay, it is impossible. And not only that is, even if you had, like, some hot lava there, and then it folded, and then a million years later, there would be still hot lava there, and then another layer would fold, then that wouldn't make sense either. Because that means there would have to be constant heat there for each millions of years that hot lava is there. And not only that is the layers, the clay, and not the clay, but the rock layers, actually would have to be all made at the same time. They would all have to be laid, heated, and folded in a matter of minutes. Seconds and minutes. It cannot be days or years. It doesn't work like that. Maybe days. Possible, I guess. I don't think it really is too possible for actually able to melt and fold over for days. But you're talking millions of years. You guys say millions of years. You know how ridiculous that sounds? You guys can look it up for yourself. Look up the layers folding at Grand Canyon. Let me get out of here and move over. So where were we? Yeah. So we find a extra series of sedimentary layers near a mile deep at the Grand Canyon that together folded without fracturing. This is possible only if a flood laid down these layers in rapid succession, and then the layers were folded quickly while soft and pliable, not over millions of years. That's exactly what this says. And this thing is made by actual scientists, people that study science, okay? No average Joe just made this, okay? Even then, there is some average Joes that are smarter than some scientists. But down here, sea animals far above sea level. How did sea creatures get inside the rock layers thousands of feet above sea level? These marine fossils found on every continent, and a slight testimony to the ocean's waters that once flooded over all the continents of so what this guy is talking about is the whole world being flooded. I can't really read this because it's like really hard. The guy is just like so faded. But what he's talking about here is marine animals actually being on every single continent, out even in deserts. There is marine animals in deserts. There is marine animals in the Antarctic and in the North Pole. In fact, there was camels on the North Pole. Like, where the heck is you gonna find there is literally camels, fossilized camels found at the North Pole. What the heck? And you guys believe in millions of years, and that the North Pole was always icy, and the South Pole was always icy. That was not the case. Okay, that is not the case. That was never the case. In fact, the Bible actually says that there was no cold before the flood. There was no rain. There was no cold. There was, as always, day and night. But it was basically always summer. It was always summer. The trees always stayed green. And that was it. People lived to be 900 years old. In fact, the conditions of back then in the Bible, we can actually find out the conditions that was back then. Of course, the Bible states that back then everything was healthier. Given people living very long times and having gigantic dinosaurs back then. Okay? So, we have found gigantic skeletons, like 12-foot skeletons and all that. People with giantism. Now, giantism, it does say in the Bible that giants did live before the flood, but they also lived after the flood. They did not only live before the flood. But since the world got worse by pollution and by the catastrophic events that happened because of the flood, the radiation started pouring in through the atmosphere by the sun. We became literally dumb with our food, making food and all that. That the ancient Romans used to just throw their manure and their waste and their garbage out on the streets, and then that would create germs, and then people would get sick, and then people wouldn't obey God when people did get sick, and they would not be isolated, and it would make other people sick. See, back then, people could lived longer. Okay? Now, it is true that back then, Civil War, Revolutionary War, and all that, we didn't live as long for the reason that we did not know much about microorganisms. God told us that if you touch a dead body, clean yourself. If you are dirty, wash yourself in moving water. Bathe every once in a while in a river. That's what God said. God told people to keep their hygiene. God also told people to isolate when somebody is sick. Cast them out of your city. Okay? For he should be all by himself, because he is sick. So, since we actually do find that there is evidences for the the Bible, and there is evidences for the flood, like we see here, and there is fossilized clams in the closed position on top of Mount Everest. Okay? How are you supposed to get a marine creature that lives at the bottom of the ocean, that is buried under the gravel, to get on top of a mountain? In the closed position, petrified. You can't. The only way that would actually happen is if that clam was petrified while it was still alive. In no way that clam is going to live millions of years old. It's going to be millions of years old. Okay? As soon as a clam or a mussel or anything like that dies, they open. And you can actually find millions upon millions upon millions of fossilized clams in the closed position. Kent Hovind actually has a whole bunch of fossilized clams. He has a whole bunch of fossilized clams in the closed position from a gardener. One guy, he found a whole bunch of fossilized clams inside of his garden, and it was like a bed of them. You know, you can find many of them. You can find some on top of Mount Everest. You can find some in a lot of places, actually. There might be some underneath your house. You don't know. You just don't know. But what I'm saying here is, we see that layers are being folded in rapid succession. So that means each individual layer at Grand Canyon must have been laid and melted and bent spontaneously. I can't talk today. I just can't talk today. It would have to be laid and melted and pliable. So it would not take millions of years to do that. So that's one evidence against your theory of the world being millions of years, being made over millions of years. There's many examples of this, the bent layers because of heat. There's many, many, many examples of it. Like like I said, the folding mountains. That is a gigantic example. Like, it is impossible for that just to happen. Like, all that would actually have to be underwater. And that is, wow. Like, seriously. This world was covered in water. In all the low places in the earth, all the water from the flood went into, which is the oceans now, which most of the earth is covered by ocean. This was not the case in the beginning. In the beginning, there was mostly land. But there was water above the earth. There was a canopy of water above the earth, and there was a canopy of water underneath the earth. Not canopy, but there was a layer of water underneath the earth. And there was a whole bunch of underground caves, apparently underneath the earth. And the fountains of the deep broke open. That's what it says in Genesis. It says the fountains of the deep broke open, which is the ground cracked apart and water started coming out, and the rains came down from the sky, so the canopy above was falling, which was the first rain ever. It was also the first flood ever. But it was also the most treacherous flood ever, and the most treacherous rain ever. That did happen. That's what happened in the Bible. And we can actually, like I said, use facts from the world and use them to apply it to the Bible. The facts from the world, Facts from the Bible applied to the world. That's what I meant. Yeah. Really, what I'm getting at about the sea animals, like I'm reading here, the sea animals, there is sea animals and sea creatures found in the Grand Canyon, near the Grand Canyon, in deserts, on top of Mount Everest, in mountains, in caves, on cliff sides, on beaches, probably under your house, okay? They are everywhere. We find fossil boneyards everywhere. This can be explained by the flood. Like this guy said right here, the fossils have been found on every single continent, and the ocean waters, which once flooded the entire Earth, all the continents in the world, would have carried sea creatures with them. So it would have carried many sea creatures out of the water, out of under the ground, out of the ponds and out of the rivers, and threw them all the way on top of, on the land. And then the land rose up and then carried up the sea creatures within the layers. But this would actually happen really fast. It would actually happen really fast, because it could not happen over millions of years. Okay? No way, Jose. Unless you're going to say that billions of years ago, a clam got petrified, and the clam lived to be millions of years old, and that clam that lived to be millions of years old walked all the way up Mount Everest. Just one day decided to climb out of the ocean and walk all the way up Mount Everest and then petrify. It doesn't make sense, okay? And there's also, like I said, sea creatures found in the desert. So what you're saying is the fish just hopped out of water and then hopped all the way to the desert and then laid there until it got buried for millions of years. No, it doesn't work like that, okay? Unless you believe that the entire world was covered by water and there was sea creatures and it got dumped everywhere, then you basically believe in the flood story, okay? If you believe that the entire world was covered by water and if the entire world was covered by water, okay, then it would cause massive erosion. So you cannot just believe in a gigantic flood and not believe in erosion, and not believe in fast, spontaneous layers, and not believe in pliable, quick erosion, and layers being bent, and volcanic activity happening really quick, and mountains being made and mountains being decimated all in one time, okay? You would have to believe in that, because that's what the facts show, okay? You cannot believe in one without the other. You cannot believe that a flood happened and not believe that a whole bunch of erosion happened. You cannot believe that a flood happened and there is sea creatures out in Missouri, okay? You don't know. You cannot believe in a flood, a worldwide flood that kills everything, and not believe in an ark, okay? Because that means a gigantic flood happened, everything died, and then nothing came back to life. Okay, so nothing exists anymore. So why are we here talking? Okay, so that means a flood would actually have to happen. I basically summed it up right there. But there is a lot more evidences I have to talk to you guys about. Sand carried across continents. Geologists have traced some of the sand and limestone and Grand Canyon to rocky sources many hundreds of miles away. That's far away as Appalachian Mountains. Okay, so it's as far as the Appalachian Mountains. No river could strip away sand and carry it across the entire continent. Only a worldwide flood could. That, like I said, guys, there's many, things for the flood. And not only that, is there's many, many, many flood stories. Okay? And Noah's Ark, the way it was designed, the way God had it in the Bible, and the way he must have made it, the way the ark was made, would have been really good for flood weather. Okay, it would have been really good. God gave him the dimensions and everything. And it is plausible. When I say it is totally plausible to fit every single kind of every single kind, not every single species, every single pairs of a kind. When I say pair, I mean like two, like a boy and a girl of unclean animals got on, and then all the clean animals, which clean animals are animals that actually are actually good to eat without taking in a lot of mercury or bad content. See, God, if you actually look in the Bible, has made a list of clean animals and unclean animals. God has described clean animals and unclean animals. Certain animals, like shark and shellfish and bottom feeders and all that, are unclean because of all the mercury they have in them. And that is, some of the stuff is just not that healthy. Like shark. Shark is unclean. That has a lot of mercury in it. Pigs were unclean, and it has a lot of cholesterol in it. And a lot of people die because of eating too much bacon, okay? So, back then, God had a big list of what was clean and what was not clean, and he gave it to the Jews. And he also told them to eat the fruits and seeds. When you eat a fruit, you eat the seeds. And doing this, the Jewish people that listened to it would actually be healthier. In fact, there's many people that actually gone on these diets, and it actually revolutionized their health. Biblical diets. And it actually revolutionized their health. And that is a really good thing. But I need to make a video about that. I'm not going to be talking about health now. Okay, we're talking about the Grand Canyon. But if you're going to believe that sand was just from Grand Canyon, if you're just going to believe that sand just teleported all the way over to Appalachian Mountains, okay, then you're daft, okay? I'll call you crazy, and I'll say what you believe in, evolution, is a fairy tale, and I'll throw it in the garbage, okay? Because evolution is a piece of crap, and it should not ever existed in human history, okay? It is a religion. If you want to also watch my other video, is evolution of religion, or does all religions have faith? Okay, it's all religions have faith. I explained that evolution is a religion, and that Christianity is a religion, and that, and I just talk about religions and faith, basically. That's basically the entire one about that, but moving on to the next one, number 4, layers over entire continents. Many of the rock layers at Grand Canyon can be traced over vast regions of North America and into Europe. The Middle East, only a worldwide flood could reasonably carry sediments from one end of a continent to another. Basically the same thing as number 3, but it's a little bit different. It's actually not carrying sand, but it is carrying sediments. There is massive migrations of sediment layers. You can find that everywhere, okay? Your dirt in your yard could be from your neighbor. Just kidding, it doesn't work like that. But thousands of feet deep into the ground, where your bedrock is, where all the stone is underneath your house, that could have been from Missouri. It could have been from Canada. It could have been from North Korea. Okay? It just depends where you live. Really, if you live in North America, it could be from Canada, it could be from Mexico, it could be from, the west side or the east side. Okay? And the only way that would actually be able to happen is if a flood would happen. A big, gigantic flood. Okay? You're daft if you believe that some rock dust, is gonna puff from the Andes Mountain all the way to the Appalachian, just like that. Okay? No, you would actually have to have something to move it. And you ain't gonna have an itsy bitsy river move all that tons of dirt over yonder. And the way this talks about it, number 4, if it is moving over entire continents, which it is, it cannot be because of one river. It cannot be of 2 rivers. It would actually have to be a gigantic river covering the continent, okay? And if there's massive migrations of settlements, what makes you think that there was not a flood? Okay, like I said, if you add up all the evidences, there was a flood. And the Grand Canyon proves that, okay? Thank God for the Grand Canyon. Number 5, I can't read that. Slow and gradual erosion. Unlike today's land surfaces, which is constantly being eroded by water and wind, rock layers and amazingly, that and snow. Is that snow? Oh no, that show little evidence of erosion. Okay, so basically what he's talking about, I can't read number 5, it's so tiny. Oh, there you go. Unlike today's land surface, which is constantly being eroded by water and wind, rock layers is amazingly flat and show little evidence for erosion. That the only explanation is worldwide catastrophic is that? Yeah, that stripped away the surface away, then deposited new layers so rapidly that they had little time for erosion. I did not even read this, and I already told you about the erosion. In fact, number 5 basically proves hydrologic sorting. See, hydrologic sorting is, like I said, in standing water or in moving water, hydrologic sorting happens. Now, the bottom layer is not older than the top layer, for we all know that the flood was not stationary water. It was always moving. It was moving water, and there was many underwater currents and all that. So we know that it was not stationary. So we know that each individual layer being laid could not have, I'll explain it like this. Secular scientists say that the bottom layers are obviously the oldest, saying that they are the beginning layers, and that more layers piled onto that, more layers piled onto that, and more layers piled onto that over millions of years. But like I already talked to you guys before, these things, and what I said, millions of years do not make sense with the creation of the layers. The only thing that does make sense is the flood and quick layer deposition. Okay? Which hydrologic sorting if in moving water, it would hydrologic sort, not from oldest to newest, but potentially the bottom layer can be older than the middle layer and or the top layer. And vice versa. It happens like that, okay? So, each individual layer has a little bit of different of an age. If you were to say it like that. But, out of all reality, each individual layer is the same age because it was all made at the exact same time. It was all made at the exact same time. It was not made over millions of years, okay? Moving on. The Grand Canyon was not thought to be carved by was thought to be carved by a lake of water blocked by a block of ice. I forgot to put that. Yeah, forgot to add something there, but then the ice melted and it washed out the Grand Canyon, showing proof of the flood. None of that is whether you believe that the ice age happened before the flood or after the flood. It doesn't really matter too much. But if you believe that the ice age happened after the flood, then if you actually look at there is evidence of a giant lake that used to be in America that was backed up, and they say was dammed by ice. So ice blocked its way so it could not erode outwards into the ocean. And then one day, that ice broke, and it carved out the Grand Canyon even more than it was already. But it would happen very rapidly. And, like I said, it shows proof of the flood. You know, like each individual layers, it shows each individual layers showing hydrologic sorting, you know? This photo is one of the photos of the areas of the Grand Canyon. And if you see the shape of the Grand Canyon here, you can tell that that is not made by a river, okay? If you say that a small river, like you see that over there. Move, please. Colorado River. Colorado River sign right here. Right there. If you can read, please read Colorado River. If you see that, that's where the Colorado River... That's where the Colorado River lays. But, you will see out here, this stuff right here, how would a river make that? All that jibbery jabbery stuff right there. Okay, that's impossible. Now, if it was a lot of water, and if it was really fast, it is possible to make a shape like that. Through backwashing and all that. Ooh, I got bad hiccups. Whoa. Let me pause this until I can get rid of my hiccups, okay? Okay, guys, I'm pretty sure I got rid of the hiccups. Whew. I don't like hiccups. I had a bad had a bad case of the hiccups today. It keeps coming back. I can't get rid of it, okay? But anyways, like I was talking about, if you're going to believe that Colorado River, which is all the way over here, made all that, which, if you look at the shape, is clearly impossible for a river, just a regular river, to make. This would actually have to be carved out by extreme erosion very quickly, and this is very possible, but not for a slow-moving river that's so-called carved the Grand Canyon for millions of years. And this is actual live footage of the Grand Canyon, not live footage, but actual photos from the Grand Canyon. One. Let's talk about Mount St. Helens eruption here. Mount St. Helens, happened really, really fast, and this is going to be proving the flood a little bit more. If you look over here, oh, whoa, wrong, yeah. If you look at the left picture, it'll be a lot easier. If you look at the left picture, with all the logs in the water, that is Spirit Lake. Now, if you guys know the Mount St. Helens eruption, Mount St. Helens apparently erupted, then knocked down a whole bunch of trees, and then a lot of lava went into the water came up on land, and brushed a whole bunch of trees right back into the water. And then all those trees, which are dead because of the heat and the water and all that, over a few weeks, started sinking. But when it sunk into vertical position. It sunk in the vertical position, which is vertical up and down. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is it. Vertical is up and down, so it went down to the vertical position. Also, the peat. What is peat, you may ask? The peat is the bark off of the trees. So, the peat fell off of the trees because of each tree rubbing against each other, and it decaying off, would come off, go to the bottom of the lake, and then deposit there. But when deposited there, if you gave it the right conditions, would actually become coal, and the logs sinking in the vertical position, if you gave it the right conditions and the right speed, it could petrify in the vertical position. And there's many places on Earth that you can find massive trees. When I say massive, I mean like 8-foot trees, and sometimes bigger. I don't know the tallest petrified tree, okay? If you guys know the tallest petrified tree, put that down in the comment section below. But anyways, giant, big petrified trees, small petrified trees, being petrified in solid rock, connecting layers going through the vertical position. That proves that it must have been in a body of water that the trees have been knocked down and have sunk in the vertical position and have gotten buried in the vertical position. And also has been petrified really fast. It is impossible for having petrified trees standing in the vertical position inside of solid rock that supposedly got laid for millions of years, according to secular scientists. That would be impossible. To the photo of the right, this is the picture of miniature Grand Canyon. If you guys also know that Mount St. Helens, when it erupted, a lot of the lava came down and it made a miniature Grand Canyon, which is the picture of the right. And if you see the two red lines there, that is ash layer and volcanic layer. We know that each one of those layers did not take millions of years to make. We can prove that. But if you see layers somewhere else, you guys automatically say millions of years old. But if you look at this, you say you say less than 30 years old, or how old they are. I know they're not millions of years old, but I don't know the exact date of them either. You guys may look at the picture of the right and be like, oh, those layers are 50 years old. But you look at the picture of the Grand Canyon, you're like, oh, those are millions of years old. What? They're both layers. Okay, so they're both layers, and you say that the one takes maybe a few days to make, and the other one a few million years. That makes no sense. Where is the logic in that? It might make sense to you, but it surely don't make sense to me. I'm trying to make sense of it. I've done research on this for quite some time, okay? Down here, the flood, there would have been volcanic eruptions. There would have been multiple volcanic eruptions inside of the flood because of the catastrophe that was happening with pressure and heat and all that. There would have been much hot lava, much underwater vents and all that being spewed out. It would have been violent in ash, lava, rock, dirt, gravel. So basically, water was liquid sandpaper. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I said it before. Water was like liquid sandpaper, okay? It could have like basically eroded through everything. Like I said here, the water would have moved rapidly, and the water would have been like sandpaper. It would have caused massive shifts in the crust of the earth, which happens. And there's proof of it. Okay? There's proof that certain plates have collided and made mountains. And if you actually noticed that the mountain ranges follow the coastlines. Every single mountain range follows the coastline. Isn't that interesting? Doesn't that prove that when the water went down, I mean not the water, but when the land went down and it got pushed up underneath and it rose up the mountains adjacent to the coastlines, wouldn't that prove that that would have happened because of the flood? You guys believed in the Pangea theory, if you guys believe in evolution, which the Pangea theory makes no sense. One of the reasons is for that reason, and multiple other reasons. I might make a video about that too. But going down here, the flood best describes the massive erosion, mountains, and layers of the earth. If you were an atheist, or a person that was a skeptic, or a person that, basically, this is just targeted for atheists and people that are skeptics, or did not get saved yet, and is confused, you just please get saved. Jesus died on the cross for your sins. Jesus loves you. I'm going to read John 3:16 through 18 for you. In the King James Version Bible, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. For God sent his Son into the world, not to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He that believeth on him is not condemned, but him that believeth not condemneth already, because he hath not believed in the name of the only begotten Son. Other words saying, you're going to go to hell, you're going to be judged because you do not believe in the Lord. Now, some people do not believe in God for many reasons. Some people don't believe in God because he doesn't like gay people, okay? That's a stupid reason. You don't believe in God because he doesn't like gay people? Well, you're going to go to hell whether you like it or not because you don't believe in God. Okay? You're stupid. Okay? Get together with God, okay? If you do not believe in God for stupid reasons because you do not want God telling you what to do, if you do not believe in God because of being too ignorant to understand or to even listen to the evidence, if you're being too ignorant, and you say that there is no God, then you are a fool. That's what God says you are. God says you're a fool, and I say you're a fool. Both definitions basically call you a fool. It's a very unwise decision. And I'll explain it to you like this. If you are an atheist, and I am a Christian, and I am right, and you are wrong, I go to heaven, and you go to hell. And you burn forever. And you get to remember all the things that you have done wrong on the planet Earth. And you get to remember when you first met Jesus. And that you really were sorry. But God said you cannot go to heaven because you did not believe in him. You did not believe that he died on the cross for your sins. And you will go to hell. And you'll be cast into the lake of fire. And if you ever got burnt, even the slightest, I tell you what, it's painful. It is irritating and it's painful. But imagine getting burnt all over your body forever without dying. Imagine getting burnt forever without dying. Would you want to feel that? Would you want to have that? No, you wouldn't. I wouldn't want that either. Another thing is, here is, if you're right and I'm wrong, then nothing happens. Okay? What would you rather believe? Would you rather believe in your religion? And if you are wrong, then you go to hell and you burn for eternity? Or if you believe in my religion, and if you end up being right in the first place, nothing happens, whether you believe in God or not. But if God is real, then you should believe in God. Because if you don't, you're going to go to hell. And it's not a pretty place. Okay? That is your own choice. I cannot make you do anything. I can only wish for you to do something. And I love you, and God loves you. It says it in the Bible. So give your heart up for God. And subscribe, turn on notifications, and watch all my videos. Okay? And hopefully get more information. Talk to you guys later.